I'm really excited for this. Is it not a good one or is it a good one?
No, it is.
Okay.
Actually, I was really fascinated by this story. So we're leaving the hotels, and now we're going to go to the top of a mountain and talk about this man who he's a very special man. So we're going to talk about him.
Is it a man?
A man.
Man. We are going to talk about the Phantom Fiddler of Silver Plume, Colorado. And
There's so many places in Colorado. I just cannot get over
it's
it.
really, and again, the map, it definitely comes in handy because like when you're trying to figure out like where these places are in relation to like what we've talked about, you know, just doing all the hotels and stuff, I would recommend while listening to the pod to have a map.
I'm going to create one.
It's so big. Colorado is so big and there's so many places.
It's like a perfect square.
Yes.
The shape of Colorado. I love
it. It's wild to
so
me.
visually appealing.
It's very, it does scratch the itch nicely.
It does.
You could stand in like the corner and be in 4 different states.
Yeah.
That's so fun.
It is really fun. I think it's cool. So, all right. So we're going to talk about this gentleman. His name is Clifford. Clifford Griffin is his name. And this...
Cliff Griff?
Yep. Cliff Griff. So this guy, he had, this is a rough story. But in the late 1800s is where this is taking place. And Clifford was, and we're going to tie this back a little bit to the mining story slightly, just kind of touching on that. Basically, Clifford, very wealthy man. He was well educated. He has family back east. And he had a lot of money. He had a lot of stuff going for him.
Seems to be going around.
Yeah, he was doing really good for himself. And he was engaged and very in love.
Lucky.
And totally devoted to this woman, right? But then on his wedding day, she didn't show.
Hard times.
Yeah, he was stood up at the altar and obviously mystified by the fact that she never showed. And, he felt very rejected. He wanted to know what happened. So he went to her hotel room, the bridal suite, to find out why she didn't come, thinking like, oh, she ran off with another man. Maybe she got cold feet, whatever it might be. Well, that's not the case.
Oh, God.
When he entered her room, he found her dead.
Oh. Okay.
And investigators concluded that she had been strangled to death the night before his wedding, right?
I have problems with this story.
But what's interesting about this is Clifford was cleared of any foul play, and they never found who did it. They didn't find any suspects. They didn't find any motive. There was no reason for it. It was very much like out of the blue, don't know what happened. So this is kind of his backstory. Obviously, this happens to him, and he was just about to start his life with this woman. So he's devastated. And I feel like sometimes when something horrific happens, you kind of want to run away and start over, start fresh, right? So he had a brother who lived in Colorado. So he decides to pack everything up and head west and just start over, bury himself into, some kind of new project. And so his brother had a silver mine in Silver Plume that was doing horribly. Like it wasn't it wasn't doing well. Clifford took over for his brother. And he actually turned it all around. He made the mine very successful.
He had a silver thumb.
He did. He treated his workers very well. He was a very kind and generous man. And it didn't really, even though it was a very successful business after he took it over, it didn't seem to make him forget what had happened and
sure,
he was still very sad. But what was interesting is he when he took over for his brother, he also started this ritual at sunset. Every night he would climb up to this flat rock that protruded over the town, so the town of where all these people lived and worked, and he would pull out his violin and play music. And what's interesting about this is at first, it was his way to kind of show gratitude for all the hardworking miners and their families. It was kind of like a celebration of the night. You know, like everyone would come out and listen to this concert. It was like a bedtime routine. But he wouldn't just play like one or two songs. He would play songs until sunrise the next day. And they weren't just like, you know, happy little jigs. It was like very haunting and mournful and yet beautiful. But there was definitely something, you know, underneath the music. And so like the miners loved it. But at a certain point, the miners became kind of exhausted because they weren't
need to go to bed.
they weren't getting a lot of sleep. And so it kind of became this it was just not enjoyable for the miners. And Clifford also just started to become kind of like a shadow of himself. He really didn't interact with the miners. The only time that they would see him would be for these nightly concerts that would continue all the time. And it kind of took on a more sinister undertone. They became much more melancholy and just, there was pain, a lot of pain in the music. And the miners started to feel like they had sold their soul to the devil because they were doing so well.
That's extreme.
I know, that's why I was like, wow. It must have been very intense music. And the fact that it was every night, all night. And so, like, obviously there's kids and there's the wives and the families.
Also,
like,
when is he sleeping?
Exactly. But
Our
they
boy's
wouldn't
lost his
see him
mind.
during the day. They would only see him at
Okay.
night. He would
Well,
only
that
come
makes
out
sense.
to play night. So on the anniversary, the 10th anniversary of Clifford's wedding day, Clifford played his typical music, except people have said that this felt different. It felt deeper, it felt heavier, and it felt like he was saying goodbye. And then at the stroke of midnight, abrupt silence was followed by the sound of a single gunshot. A group of obviously concerned miners charged up the mountainside to check on Clifford. They called out into the looming darkness, no reply. Suddenly, one of the miners screams. He had fallen into a hole, but he had landed on something soft.
Oh, boy.
When the other men found him, they discovered that he had fallen on the body of Clifford.
Okay.
By his side, the violin and a bottle of tonsil varnish and a suicide note.
Yikes.
And the note instructed that his body be left in the grave of his making. So he not only killed
he
himself,
buried himself. That was
Okay.
very
he
polite.
also dug a grave and fell into said grave where the other miner, landed on him. So obviously, respecting the dead man's wishes, his brother buried him in the grave that he had, made for himself. But he also commissioned a granite monument as like a way to kind of honor Clifford and hope that would help set his spirit at ease. It didn't.
Okay, great.
Clifford never left, and the music continued to play. And like on quiet nights especially, the violin's tune drifts down the silver plume, and no one's there. But there is like an unmistakable sound that just is heard throughout the area. And what's crazy is that some people have even said that if you go to the location of where he played last, so this kind of overlooking stone, it feels like he's standing next to you and the air turns ice cold.
Okay.
And I was like, this is crazy because people truly believe that his spirit is still there, to the point of, in the Colorado Spring Gazette, they did an entire article about him, and it was titled "Englishman's Ghostly Music Recalled in Silver Plume." And it talks all about his story. And then, even crazier, is the cliff top grave you can go to and visit said grave. And it was in Ripley's, or Believe It or Not. And if you want to go visit the grave, there's a map to the spot, and you can go to Silver Plume's George Rowe Museum to get said map. I don't know that they allow you to go to the gravesite or to the grave, but it is a very big part of that area's history. And that is our
That is Fiddler. That is not the Fiddler on the Roof that I've heard about.
No, and here's the thing. I'm gonna say equal to Laughing Children.
Yeah.
A fiddle playing on a mountain. Creepiness.
Yeah, and I think what threw me with this story was the fact that he played all night long, every night.
I would kill him.
And some reports even said that his fingers would be bleeding because obviously if you're playing on a violin, like you're touching the strings.
Yeah.
And so like he would play so long that he would cause his hands to bleed.
I mean,
My first reaction was, okay, what animal makes a noise that could sound like that?
But that he's got some deep sorrow that like, also who killed his wife? I mean, fiance.
So I have a problem with that part of the story because I'm sorry, it's your wedding day and you're by yourself in your bridal suite. Like, where's your bridesmaids? Where's your family? Like, how was she by herself?
I mean, it was a long time
That he's like,
ago.
yeah, I don't think they
waiting
were popping mimosas.
It was
Yeah, but-
the 1800s.
That just seems sus. to
Unless
me.
it was
fair.
unless it was like hey, my family does not want me marrying you.
Yeah.
And
But what? Everybody was at the church and she was the only one back in the hotel?
Also, she was
know.
strangled to death, which means she probably made a lot of noise.
And it had to have been a man. Sorry.
Oh,
It did
100%,
because
yes.
of the sheer strength that it takes to strangle the life out of somebody.
I always go to like, was there
it's
another
not
guy?
as hard. No, I'm just kidding.
Was there another man? Like a jealous,
That's
Yeah.
immediately what I thought. That
100%.
didn't want, if I can't have
wealthy
you, no one else can.
Clifford,
Mm-hmm.
taking
got
her.
money?
Right. He's very well off, well educated, is going to give her everything that she ever wants.
Makes me wonder, though, again, like why his soul wouldn't be at rest, why he would still be
Like he kind of
there.
go to her,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's because he killed himself.
Well, and
Truth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He unalived himself.
Yeah.
So sorry, guys,
I
that was
wanted
the
it to
dark
be
one.
happier. I thought
Sorry.
it was going to be like a snuggle.
No, I actually like that story.
And same. I kind of was like frustrated. I wanted like more creature stuff and I wanted to be like a creature guy. But then like the story was actually like, oh, wow.
That could have been one of our like beginning stories. That's what it reminds me of.
I kind of, when I
Right.
first heard the story too, I also just like assumed it would be like a werewolf guy. Like
Yeah.
he turns into this phantom fiddler.
So I was going to ask that question. What do you find more terrifying, these like paranormal ghost hauntings or a creature?
Hauntings, because I don't believe in the creatures as much.
Oh, well,
I have a harder time thinking a werewolf exists than a ghost.
okay. Well, let's, for argument's
Oh.
sake, pretend they both exist. Which would be scarier? I guess that's how I'm thinking of it.
Oh, okay. Then creatures.
Because I'm just like, no, I'm still gonna go like if a werewolf comes out of the woods at me, I'm going to poop my pants. Whereas if a ghost comes at me, I'm gonna just pray it goes through me. You know, like
Okay,
No,
but
you try to fight it.
Are we
Probably.
talking? Are we talking like Lizard Man? Or are we talking like Jacob from Twilight? Because if we're talking Jacob from Twilight,
Yeah, but you're not going to see him when he's got abs. You're just going to see him as the werewolf.
but is he a werewolf?
technically he was a shapeshifter. They chose the form of a wolf.
True. But like, you're not going to see hot Jacob.
Or like, what's a professor in Harry Potter? Lupin.
Yeah, he was a werewolf.
Yeah.
He was a werewolf.
So
That scared me.
yeah, he was a scary.
That was a
person.
frightening
Yes.
werewolf.
That was my favorite book.
So if that was the werewolf I was gonna meet up with, or Casper, I'd choose Casper.
Is Casper turning into Devon Sawa and saying,
course.
"Can I keep you?" Because then I'm in.
okay, so the jackal from 13 Ghosts,
That is terrifying.
That is
or
scary.
or our Slide Rock Mountain
Oh,
cryptoid.
the blubber guy with the really
the fish
giant
that
mouth.
hooks you
Yeah,
Yeah.
that just eats the tourists.
all day, jackal.
Yeah, that thing was terrifying.
Yeah.
Because I don't even understand its mechanics. Honestly, I wouldn't know how to fight for myself.
I still don't know if it's this big or
All of the bigs, I don't understand.
What about Bigfoot? Since we've talked
Oh,
about
I'm
No,
cuddling the shit
I
out of him.
know.
I'm
Yeah, I
cracking
feel like
open a
he's-
Coors Light.
I think of like that movie with the Yeti. I don't know what movie that was, but it was like this cute little Yeti guy. That's what I think when I think.
Oh, well, I think if the
Bigfoot.
movie exists and not so cute.
Oh, okay.
But I will argue, I just feel like if Bigfoot is real, he will not bother you if you don't bother him.
Fair.
You know?
100%. He just wants to be left alone.
He's
Right.
like a bear. That's the same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why I always have a problem with ghosts because I'm like, yo, man, I just came to this hotel to have a good time.
Yeah.
I didn't ask you to be here. I'm sorry you're stuck. But leave me alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like,
I
I'm
agree.
not bothering you. I just came here to stay. It's not my fault you're trapped.
Fair.
You know, but yes,
agree.
I would be way more scared of creatures than ghosts.
I also feel like sometimes, and this is like because of movies and books and stuff,
I just
but
get myself a lot of salt.
I feel, yeah.
So much salt.
I feel like ghosts seem scary until you can understand what they're trying to tell you.
Yeah.
Right?
I always
So,
think
like,
Sixth Sense, you know?
yeah, like, is there a certain level of just you're afraid because you don't understand?
Yeah.
And, like, you know, obviously they look terrifying, but then as you start to understand what they're trying to say to you, could we just like, I'm just trying to find my home or something, you know?
Oh, like the little boy who just wanted to find his coat and
Yeah.
are you
Oh,
afraid of the dark?
God, that's the
Yeah.
worst
I'll never-
one.
I always will
I
remember.
hate that
love
one.
that one.
That's a tough one.
Hate to love, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah.
It's
okay.
a love-hate thing.
Love to hate. Okay, well, I'm going to get depressing. So,
Even more so than the fiddler?
yeah. But first, I'm going to start off with some. We've talked about this before. Colorado, giant wide open spaces. Also, lots of highways. And where it's located in the country, lots of truck drivers, but also lots of places to dump a body. Colorado has quite a few serial killer instances.
Really?
Yeah. So
I think I avoid stuff like that. See, again, I go to the fictitious monsters.
I love the real stuff.
And
Lay it on.
yeah, since this true crime thing has exploded, really, you know, with all these documentaries and now podcasts and things like that, I think it's wild because I'm like, I don't want to know about the real psychos. Like,
See,
just
I've
keep that to
been-
yourself.
ever since I was a little kid, like forensic, like just I've been obsessed with this kind of stuff.
Is it because you need to know the why?
I need to know, and I think it's like maybe the more I know, the more I can protect myself. Maybe.
Fair.
See, but I would become more paranoid.
I'm sure I have. I'm not saying that's not happening. So the first one, this is just like a little story that I loved because did you guys ever watch The Jinx on HBO?
No.
So
Never even
it
heard of it.
follows Robert Durst, who's like a suspected killer.
The
And
Jinx?
The Jinx. It's on HBO. It's one of the most incredible moments on television ever. He essentially, the whole show follows him and his life, and he's fucking batshit bananas. But at the end, he thinks the cameras are off.
Wait, this is a documentary?
This is real life. This happened. He's gotten away with these murders up to this point. HBO's making a documentary about this man who's very interesting, weird, nuanced life. He thinks the cameras are off. He asks if the cameras are off, but there's cameras installed in this hotel room where they're having these interviews with him. Spoiler alert. I'm not going to tell you what happens. But
So
it's
no spoiler.
It's insane. Well, spoiler alert because it's been around for quite a bit. So people have seen it. It is, he confesses to killing people. He confesses because he thinks he's not being recorded anymore.
Idiot.
And like all the things that HBO had to go to because all of the producers
Can you
are sitting.
imagine?
The producers are sitting there and they're like, did he just fucking say that?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, did he just say that? He confesses on being filmed.
Wild.
I just need you guys to watch it. So the reason why I like this one is because in Fountain, Colorado, again, another place that this enormous state, a confessional was hidden in plain sight for nearly a century. So,
A confessional?
confessional.
Like church?
Like someone
Like
confessed.
he confessed.
Oh,
A
okay.
confessional. Okay, so
I'm picturing like the box with
this confession was written on pencil in the back of a piece of window molding. So
Mold.
John Spicer, this murder was 120 years old by the time they found it. It now sits on display in the Fountain Valley Historical Society in Fountain, Colorado. But it details the brutal murder of a man named John J. Sebastian. Spicer clubbed him to death in 1893 in the area of Colorado we now know as Fort Carson. And it was completely unsolved until 1986 when homeowner Jim Eggleston discovered the written confession while installing new windows. Spencer's confession read, "I did kill and willfully murder, which launched an investigation into the determination of whether this whole thing was real or staged. Once they realized that the confession was real, they were able to close the case once and for all. And it's now theorized that Spencer, he murdered Sebastian after a night of them gambling together so that he could steal $5,000 worth of cash and jewelry. And I just kind of love that because he wrote it on this molding. So he's probably dying, right?
Yeah.
Like, I need to get this out of my system. Thinking no one's going to find it, but also thinking like, oh, I'm absolved of my crimes now. I've done the right thing. You know, I'm not, you know, taking this to the grave. And someone finds it. And it's one of those things too, where like, especially in the true crime space that we've been talking about, the people deserve closure, right? So there's all these generations of people needing to know what happened to their family members, gave them closure. So that's a, you know, I was going to say that's a lighthearted one compared to what I'm about to tell you. We have a female serial killer. Ooh. Our girl, Judy Buenonano, which you say is a poor attempt at the Spanish translation of Goodyear. She poisoned 4 victims, 3 of which died. So she had a baby when she was a teenager, and she married James Goodyear. When he got back from Vietnam, she poisoned him in his special vitamin C drink that she gave him daily. He died within 4 months. She was able to collect his life insurance policy and the VA benefits. And it's so crazy because you don't get a lot of female serial killers, right? So I found this really interesting.
They always seem to use poison.
I know, I was just going to say that too.
Because they're smart. It's not making a mess, you know? Yeah. It's a little bit harder to trace. So next she set her sights, our girl Judy, on Bobby Morris, who lived in Colorado. And to her credit, she found some happiness with him. They were happy for quite a few years. And then she was like, you know what? I got away with 1. I could probably get away with 2. So she poisoned him as well. Cashed in on his life insurance policy. And she realized, wow, this is a really good way to make some money.
Very lucrative.
I don't have to work. This is when it gets awful. Her next victim was her own son. He lost the use of his legs due to arsenic poisoning. He drowned when Judy threw him off a boat, and she watched till he sunk to his death. I'm guessing that it doesn't say it here, but it seems like perhaps he was on to the situation. You know what I mean? Like, he's older at this time. These men are just dying like hotcakes. Yeah. And she's cashing in. The 4th victim was her newest fiance, John Gentry, who Judy persuaded to make her the beneficiary of his giant life insurance policy. And she was poisoning him slowly, but he wouldn't die. And she was getting super pissed. So she became super impatient. She's like, this poison shit is taking forever. She tried to blow him up in his car. He still didn't die. He survived the car bomb. And to this day, he's the only known survivor of her. She was executed in 1998 by electrocution. And someone wrote in this article that I'm reading, they were like, shouldn't you have just given her lethal injection? I mean, like, she poisoned people. We should probably poison her.
Yeah.
But no, they electrocuted her.
Colorado, you are a wild state.
I know. But there's some big names that have come through Colorado as far as serial killers go. So we've got, if you are true crime fans, Scott Lee Kimball. He is, he was in prison for check fraud, and he was released early because he was going to become an FBI informant. Even though he had already escaped a Montana prison. I don't know why the Colorado police were like, this guy is a good one. He's already escaped prison. He was ready to begin his life as a snitch. And during that time, he had a second skill that he just honed because he felt protected. He would murder young women. And he'd dump their bodies in the Colorado mountains.
Now, do you think this is like, isn't it, I guess, are we considering this a good place, you know, to hide the bodies? Like, there's just, I mean, there's just so much landscape. It's
plentiful. Yeah. You're going to hide the bodies. But I guess he's, you know, these are truly awful murders. I mean, his first victim, Leanne Emery, was on her way to Mexico to go spelunking when Kimball attacked. He shot her twice in the back and killed her when she was trying to get away from him. And then 2 weeks later, he claimed that he didn't shoot Jennifer Markham, another girl that he killed. He gave her a lethal dose of heroin so that it would look as though she overdosed. And then his third victim was 19-year-old Casey McLeod. He married her mother and honeymooned not far from where he dumped her daughter's body. He's currently serving a 70-year sentence, but his final not female victim was his own uncle. Doesn't really say much about what he did to
So he
him.
didn't have a type.
He did not have a type. But he's like one of those people that's super egotistical. He nicknamed himself Hannibal. He says that there's plenty more bodies, but that he's not going to let, the government know he wants them to work for it. Like, he just fucking sucks. I don't like him. I mean, not that I like any of them.
Yeah.
But, like, he's just an egotistical scumbag, like, awful, awful guy. But I think my favorite of these stories is the Ted Bundy story. Do you guys know about his story in Colorado?
I don't know about Colorado, but I do know about him.
Okay.
I did watch the documentary.
So he was arrested and tried in Colorado for the murder of Karen Campbell in Aspen.
This was where he represented himself?
Yes, it is. So
Okay.
he went to trial, represented himself, and if you've not watched that footage, it's wild.
You want to talk about an egotistical...
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, absolutely,
like,
freaking
son of a bee.
So he was granted a request by the judge to use the law library in the courthouse during recess. When the law enforcement went to retrieve Bundy, they found the library empty and the window open. Why? Because our boy Bundy jumped out the window, which they didn't think he would because it was on the second floor, but I'm jumping off the 8th story if I'm trying to escape. So when it took them 6 days to actually find him, but he was brought back to the Glenwood Springs jail, and he said that he was not happy with the Colorado hospitality that he was receiving.
Well,
poor
I'm
him.
sorry.
Poor little baby. So when he was there, he would use his own downtime to carve a hole in the bottom of his cell, thinking that once he's big enough to get through, he could climb out.
With a spoon?
And don't
Was
you
it with a
know-
spoon?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's what he did. So once it was big enough, he climbed out, dropped onto the on-site apartment of the head jailer, stole clothes, walked out the front door.
This is Shawshank status.
Walked out the front door. Then he ran to Florida and murdered more women until he was
Yeah.
captured. And he was executed in 1989, as we know, claiming he murdered 28 people, although he is suspected of murdering
Yeah.
hundreds. And then you have, and I don't want to talk about this because the story is really horrific, Chris Watts. Do you know the Chris Watts story?
I don't think so.
Once I say it, you will.
Okay.
He murdered his wife Shannon and their children, and he strangled
barrels.
her, and he put them in a oil storage site.
No, I
in barrels.
told you I don't like listening
4-year-old
to the
daughter,
real things.
3-year-old
They,
daughter.
they put them into
Just-
barrels and then drop them at the site, his work site.
Truly the most horrific thing. That
Heinous.
documentary, I can't even. Her friend,
And the way
who
he
knew-
is the whole time too.
God,
It's
I feel like I just
so-
picked egotistical twat waffles to
No, I think we're seeing
Talk about,
their
but-
commonality. I mean, there's a psychology
absolutely,
behind it, right?
absolutely. And that kind of brings me to talking about something that we're finding every place that we do has these horrific storied pasts because we're in the United States, and this is stolen land. And one of the biggest, I'm going to say issues, but horrific things that is dealt with here is the missing and murdered Indigenous women. We're going through this right now at the time of recording. There is a young girl named Emily Pike who was brutally murdered and is getting no press coverage. No press coverage whatsoever. And she's a young girl. And she is just one of many. But the state of Colorado actually has an online tool that helps you track missing and murdered Indigenous people. So I'm just going to talk about that a little bit. We've already talked about all the tribes that have been here, but the reason why this is a little bit more, I would say more modern, in 2021, President Biden signed an executive order directing the federal government to address this epidemic, which is exactly what it is, of missing and murdered Indigenous people, including coordinating the investigation into unsolved cases. That is the biggest issue, right? So like nobody's looking for these people. And then when the people that are looking for them, there's not a national database for them to track these things. So In an effort to advance the aims of the executive order, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, which you have to give them props, like this happened right away. They're launching this awesome dashboard. So the CBI, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, and the Division of Criminal Justice of Colorado, they launched the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Relatives Dashboard. So this is a place that you can go on, and if you do, we'll link this in the episode notes, but it's an interactive component. It's going to display a picture of the missing person, something that the relatives can upload, a brief description of the case to encourage all the people with information around these cases to call law enforcement. There's an agency listed there that's in conjunction working on the case, and you can share tips leading to the location. And it was created by the Senate Bill 22-150, which specifies that it includes the number of cases in Colorado, the date of the incidents, the tribal affiliation, the jurisdiction of the case, the status of the case, and there's an interactive map with an image identifying each missing person and who you can contact, what resources you can contact. But just for some numbers that are just makes me sick to my stomach. So the U.S. Department recorded 116 incidents of missing or killed Indigenous women since they created this database in 2021.
But not necessarily just in Colorado or over?
Just overall,
okay.
Yeah. And then the Urban Indian Health Institute discovered 5,712 documented cases of missing and murdered Indigenous women and people in 2016. And according to the Colorado Department of Public Safety, the dashboard will automatically provide the status whenever they get an update. So if you're working somewhere in Colorado, but we were just talking about how massive this freaking state is. Mm-hmm. The minute that gets updated, it goes automatically to this database. So you're not waiting on somebody to put in the information, and that's what happens. These people fall by the wayside. Mm-hmm. The government wants to pretend they don't exist so that they can just take, right? Yeah. So however they can do that, they do. But it's already working. So since December 30th, 2022, the website lists 45 alerts, including 29 cold cases of homicides, and 8 missing people have been missing for 6 months or longer, and this helps with those. And there is also a resource phone line that was established with another Senate bill, and that lets people that have missing or murdered Indigenous relatives 24 hours a day, 7 days a week have access to someone to help with the cases. And the reason why I bring it up is because we talked a lot about in the last episode, and you can't avoid it when you're talking about Colorado. It is all over the United States and Canada, especially Canada. Mm-hmm. These missing and murdered Indigenous women and people, they are just truly forgotten about, and it happens daily. Like daily, this is happening, and it's like that gray area where they act like, oh no, the law enforcement on the reservation should take care of it,
right?
When they don't have the resources to do those things. Yeah. And so it's kind of like, oh no, that's not our problem. You want to govern yourselves, go ahead, do it. Yeah. And nobody's looking for them, and they get no media attention, and it is really horrific. And if that's something you want to dive into, a lot of really much more intelligent people than me have covered it in podcasts, and there's great documentaries. Mm-hmm. But just look up the missing and murdered Indigenous women and people movement, that they're trying. Yeah. And they've been trying, but if you don't have the support of a government, what the fuck can you do? Mm-hmm. So that's the not fun part, but I felt like that was something that we needed to address and bring up for sure.
I think that's an incredible thing that Colorado took on in
I agree.
Probably years too late, but I mean, at least somebody has gotten that started, right? And I hate to say it
when it's like, oh, at least it's something, but like that's the thing, right? Everyone's like, oh, well, we did our part. Mm-hmm. It's not enough.
It's not enough.
Like everybody needs to be doing
their part. If it keeps happening, it's not enough.
It's not enough. Exactly.
Right. Until there are no more missing, murdered Indigenous women.
And I'm always just gonna wonder why. Like, why are they a target? Why is it happening in these areas?
I think it's because they are viewed as lesser.
Yeah.
Like that they would not be found missing?
They'll be forgotten.
Yeah.
They're going to be forgotten. And they're not. Because look at this. Like, these poor people have been screaming this for centuries, and now they're finally getting I guess with this true crime boom, maybe more eyes are on these things, more ears are on these things. But that's a whole other can of worms. But it's just, the Gabby Petito case, right?
Yeah.
Horrific case. But she was a white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl who got all the media attention she wanted, And then in real time right now we're seeing this with this Emily Pike girl, and it's heartbreaking.
Who was in Phoenix.
Yeah. And she was in a group home, and it is just as awful as you can think, multiply it.
Right.
And no media attention. I didn't know about this because of TikTok. That is the only reason I know about this, is because people are screaming it from the rooftops, like, why is nobody helping? Why is nobody looking? So, I mean, that was just, one small example of, and that's the other thing too, right? People think like, oh yeah, that used to happen. No, it's still happening.
I was just going to say, I literally was just going to say the fact that we're still talking about this as it needs to be changed. Like, history just keeps repeating itself and no one learns.
Yeah. And that's why I hope all of these places are haunted by Indigenous spirits who are like, get the off our land.
Yeah.
Serves you right.
Yes. So we will post those links to those things in the episode too, or on our website and blog, so you guys can check those out. But speaking of really haunted places, this is just a little nod to Cheeseman Park. Have you guys heard of this?
No, but I'm very curious about this.
So it's a little park. It's on Capitol Hill in the neighborhood of Denver, Colorado, where we were. It's the most visited park in the Mile High City, and it attracts many outdoor enthusiasts, of course. Well, the land was originally a burial ground, which we know because it was Prospect Hill Cemetery. And
I feel like that should have opened. Yeah.
Okay, so it's known for being away from the city because the dead were mostly victims of, you guessed it, yellow fever and illness. Rumor has it that it was also used as a potter's field to bury the poor and undesirable citizens of the city. So it was kind of like the dumping ground. You're sick, you didn't have money, fine, your body goes here. And bye. In the 20th century, there were plans to repurpose the land as a park. And the government officials were like, yeah, let's do it. We're going to give the loved ones of the deceased a 90-day period to exhume and rebury the body. Do you know how much money that is?
No, how much?
What, like, oh, Nanny's buried here. Let me pay to exhume Nanny's body and rebury her somewhere else.
I'm sure it's not cheap.
Hell no. That's in the well of the thousands. So obviously not all of the bodies were claimed because a lot of their ancestors are dead. But very few of the bodies were moved since nobody had the money to do so. So therefore all the bodies were left underground. Unfortunately, many of the bodies buried were members of the Chinese community who worked on the construction of the railroad that went through there. So a lot of those bodies that they were recovered were shipped back to China for reburial. All right, so we're talking over 5,000 bodies were still left down there. When in 1893, work began to move remaining bodies and exhume them to ship them to another part of the city. They're still there. Some of them went to the Riverside Cemetery, but they obviously couldn't get all of the bodies. Well, in where does it say the year? Early 1900s, there was a mining accident in Utah, and there was a casket shortage, which led...
Never would think about that.
Yeah, to a lot of bodies being hacked and fitted into as many as 3 people per casket. So these bodies that you're thinking is just like one body, multiply times 3, sometimes 4.
Well, it makes sense if this is an area where people can't afford burial rights and things like that they're going to condense. I mean, I hear about things like that when it comes to cremation now as well.
Yeah.
Always, yeah. And I think, too, that people don't realize that this is built on what it is, but a lot of people say that they see hauntings, they hear things. There's thousands of bodies underneath there. And just a little park that if you want to go for a little jog, maybe you'll see a nice little ghosty. They say that they hear the ghosts screaming that were left there at night. You can hear them screaming because they're pissed. Wailing. Shadowy figures, and that people don't realize that while they're sitting there picnicking with their children, they're probably on top of a body that was buried 150 years ago.
Well, I mean, that reminds me again of New Orleans, or not New Orleans, Charleston.
Yeah.
Right? City of
Yeah.
Bones, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
We're all kind of on top of things now at this point, right?
We're running out of room.
Yeah.
It's very scary.
I know.
What's very scary to me is how people with no money are treated, essentially.
I
You
know.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you can't even pay for a funeral, you have to still be nervous that you're just going to be like tossed aside
Into a hole with thousands of other people. Speaking of,
Were you tossed into a hole?
No.
Okay.
But I have a hole to talk about.
I bet you do,
Oh my
Panama
God,
Red.
that was a great segue.
It's perfect. We planned this. I'm gonna there's lots of holes that we could talk about, but I'm just gonna talk about one specific hole.
I'm trying so hard.
Like, set that up a little bit different.
Dale, tell us about your hole.
Have you heard about?
Have you heard about Widowmaker? This is what it's called, Widowmaker. Okay. And it's actually a cave. Okay, it's not really.
Okay.
just
So not a hole in the ground.
But it is a cave that is like to enter it. There's a hole. Like you go
Sure.
through a hole to get into the cave. And so this is it's very mysterious. It has lots of things that happen around it. The haunted hole was discovered near Red Cliff in 1869. And the first person to discover this was a hunter, and he was tracking a deer. The young man could track a bear through running water and bees through a blizzard. That's the story. This is how they're explaining it. So he was
This sounds
clearly
like
a very
old
good,
school legend.
very good hunter,
Yeah.
right? And so he was completely mystified when the deer's tracks abruptly stopped at the top of the ridge. It was it was as if the doe had been sucked into the clear blue sky.
Was it a vortex?
Perplexed by the mystery, the young man sat down on a nearby rock and enjoyed some jackrabbit jerky while chewing on.
I really love the detail in this story. Yeah. I mean, the picture is painted.
While chewing on said jerky, he was, thinking about things, and suddenly he heard a desperate yelping from his loyal watchdog. Because he's very bewildered. He's a bewildered teenager. These are those stories, words. He called for his mutt and patiently listened to see if the dog would come. But he only heard painful silence. The young man was then understandably very spooked and was confused as to why the animal wouldn't come when called. So he became very scared, shaking like a leaf.
If you're about to tell me this dog is dead, I'm out.
She's ready to take her headphones
I'm
off. Like, just stop.
He hastily grabbed
Abort.
his mule. He hastily grabbed his mule and turned to head home. While the
Wait, he's just about to leave that poor puppy there?
No, I think he's following.
he's
Okay.
well, we'll see. While the getting was good, but the terrified nag refused to budge. So he was trying to get the mule to go. The mule wouldn't go.
What an ass.
And then, just then, he spied an obscured cave peeking from behind a border of shrub oak. Oddly, fresh drag marks were in the snow, led directly into the dark hole. To add to the puzzling mystery, dozens of white bunnies began flying through the air as if they had sprouted wings.
This is not real.
Within seconds, it gets better. Within seconds, the wide-eyed rabbits were sucked into the yawning mouth of the cavern, one by one, like popcorn kernels. When the spooked kid returned home, because clearly he left because,
What are you going to do?
there was something sucking bunnies into a cave.
This is awful to be telling around Easter. Keep going.
Yeah, he told this mysterious experience to his, family, and no one believed him. They thought he was crazy, and it was a crazy story. And apparently this child was also, or this teenager was also known for telling stories.
Boy, you cried wolf.
And so unfortunately, he, the dog, as well as the boy who went back looking for his dog, was never seen again. He did not return.
He went to the bunny hole?
So what's crazy about this is not the first time the Widowmaker has taken, the name of it is, there's other stories for this hole. And it also, the first story ever was about a woman who disappeared and fell into this hole and was discovered.
So is it a hole or a cave?
So it's a hole into a cave.
It's in the ground?
But wait. So then, because of all this stuff, this crazy stuff, the Widowmaker gained some national attention when this kind of like all these stories started coming out about these weird things happening, people disappearing into the holes, but they're being sucked into the hole.
It's a very sexually forward story.
I like it.
So, the Denver Sun published an article saying that the Widowmaker's supernatural sucking powers were due to the constricting. Oh my God.
Constricting?
Anyway, it was because the air temperatures inside and outside of the cave were different. During the winter, cold air was being drawn inside, which created a strong vacuum effect. But in the springtime,
vortex.
Dirt, rocks, and bones spewed out from the cave's
Oh my God, that's
volcanic
amazing.
mouth like vomit from a college dorm window.
Vomit from a college dorm window. What a line. What a line.
And so
Good gosh, Dolly.
the lesson was learned, that the cautionary tale for this story is the fact that if you stumble upon a mysterious Colorado cave, do not venture inside.
Oh.
Because it might be your last.
I'm in.
Sorry, that word really
Constricting structure.
constracting.
I don't think I would go into a cave anyway. You don't know what animals are in there.
But so the visual though of this story is like, okay, his dog goes missing, right?
Oh, we never
He
did find out what
he
happened.
hears a yelp, and then he calls the dog. The dog doesn't come, but he doesn't go looking for the dog. He just is
Accepting his
scared.
dog
He's
is gone,
scared,
yeah.
right? He's like, I don't understand. My dog would come if I called him, so I'm just gonna go home. And he can't get the mule out. And then all of a sudden, bunnies start just flying.
I mean, also hilarious. Let's be honest.
But then to go home and tell, like, Mom, Dad, you're never gonna believe what just happened to me. He tells the whole
Bunnies
story.
everywhere.
And the parents are like, yeah, that's
Nice
not
try.
true.
Yeah.
And then the kid goes looking for his dog again and then never comes back.
Yeah, that part sucks. That's sad.
And then, like, other people also went to find this said cave, and same thing happened. Like, people would go missing because they try to venture into the cave and then they never return. But then in the end, it was
But then if
because
they
of-
found out what this cave's deal was,
Yes.
were the bodies in there?
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, okay, they
Well,
disappeared for a time.
It spits bones out in the springtime.
Oh, that's true. It did ejaculate all of the bones.
Now, imagine she's like, I'm a Widowmaker, bitch.
I mean, that's what I kept picturing.
Me too.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's lots of holes in Colorado, so that's just one hole.
I like that hole.
It's a good hole.
I'm going to take us to the airport, which is...
So we could fly out of this crazy state?
Here's the thing.
Yeah,
Are we really not going to be able to leave?
Let's fly
I
home.
have 22 pages of notes. I'm giving the most abridged version. Maybe we could do another bonus episode where we just dive into this
Just
because
the
it is
Into the Colorado airport?
it is when I say layers, it is insanity.
Do you know I never even heard of this until you had mentioned it?
Yeah. Yes, I do. Because you told me. So, okay, the original airport that was there was the Stapleton International Airport. It was 1929 to 1995. What happened was where Colorado is located, a lot of international flights were coming in. Also, air travel, right, increased greatly. And they didn't have enough terminals. So if there was also the way that the runways were set up, if there was a tiny bit of bad weather because the runways were so close to each other, planes could not take off and land because they'd be doing so next to each other, and you need a wider berth of land. Obviously, Colorado, horrific weather, very, unconventional weather patterns. Well, after many board meetings, and I'm sure screaming matches, The people of Denver did not want another airport. They liked their Stapleton
This
Airport.
sounds like Yellowstone.
It sure does. And the problem is the city of Denver was like, this airport's very close to the city of Denver. They want high rises. They want skyscrapers because the population is growing very quickly. But they cannot put those up because of the planes landing. We live in New York City.
The airspace?
Yes, the airspace, because the buildings would be too high and the airport was so close. So, I'm sure lots of money was involved in them eventually agreeing to do this. What a clusterfuck from day one. So the original date that this was supposed to open happened 16 months before it actually did open. And it was supposed to open on October 29th,
Well,
1993.
come on.
It did not open until February 28th, 1995. It was supposed to cost $2.9 billion. It ended up racking up a $4.8 billion. And the reason why is because they wanted this like top of the art crazy baggage claim thing where your bags were immediate. You're not sitting at baggage claim and waiting. So they thought they created this like crazy automated system, and they invited all of these reporters out to watch this automated baggage system work. And essentially it was a machine that was supposed to like toss the bags into the plane, and all these reporters showed up, and it's just firing bags into the side of the plane, into the ground. People's shit is going everywhere, and they're like, yeah, that's not going to happen. So when it eventually did open, because they spent so much extra money on this, amazing baggage claim, it ended up being smaller than Stapleton. It only had 88 gates. So talk about a clusterfuck. It was probably, just to put this in perspective, the Denver International Airport is so large. It covers 55 square miles.
It's massive.
JFK covers 8.1. It is 33,531 acres large. That is bigger than Manhattan.
Whoa.
It is insane how big this airport is, right? So I think it is the second largest airport in the world. There are so many stories about what is there. We saw the giant blue Mustang that's in the front with red eyes. I wish I was kidding. This is not
Like a horse?
Yes. And it is there. It like greets you outside the airport. It is
mascot.
It's huge. The locals call it Blucifer.
Love
which is
that.
Hilarious.
I would never think of an airport as being haunted. I don't know why I've never made that connection.
I just don't know if haunt is what this is.
Yeah.
We'll start with Blucifer. Our boy Blucifer is it killed the guy that created it.
Okay.
So a piece fell off before it was done and landed on top of the guy who was building it.
What piece?
Well, this is a 32-foot tall sculpture, and red glowing eyes, and a mane that's supposed to look like Medusa's snakes. It was created by Luis Jimenez, and it was commissioned in the mid-90s when they were going to open this. And it doesn't say, I don't think it says what piece it was in this article.
Oh, the eyes glow.
Oh, they glow. Yeah. It just has a piece of the sculpture, but it fell and severed a main artery in his leg, and the man bled out.
That is not what I was picturing, and that is ginormous.
Yeah, Blucifer is enormous. Some people say that he represents one of the steeds ridden by the four horsemen in the apocalypse. Jimenez says that it was supposed to just honor the wild spirit of the West. That's not it. So there are these gargoyles that are over the luggage area, and they are really creepy, but I would just see them. Yeah, it's enormous. It's look at his giant horse dung. Actually, they kind of made it small for how big he is. That's not nice.
This was just a joke.
That's
this
not
is
nice.
Reddit.
But
Reminds me of the bull in
Yeah.
New York City.
Yeah.
I mean,
the gargoyles are supposed to ward people off from evil spirits
it really
and the
is there.
buildings. Yeah, no, it's a tiny ween.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's little.
I guess he's not a stallion.
I get, but he's a Mustang.
He's
you
a
know?
bronc. He's a that's right.
He's a bucking bronco.
Bronco.
And the gargoyles,
Like, you did not have to be anatomically correct, bro. Like, come on.
she's really stuck on this horse's disc.
I can't not look now.
I understand. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna close it.
Distraction.
Staring at you.
It's staring at me.
I understand. So you got these creepy ass gargoyles that people say look like they're looking at you, and they're right above the baggage claim area. Why are we putting gargoyles on the inside of an airport?
That is
Also in
exactly what I was
Colorado.
thinking. Like, that's typically something you see on a church.
And they're
Why would-
not.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a religious allegory.
Yeah.
They're not cute.
Wow. They
they're
almost look like
Mayan.
Thank
or,
you. Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So that ties into the fact that some people think that this airport was built by a secret society. Which secret society? Some people say that it was the Freemasons, which, if you look all over this airport, there's the Freemasons logo on the floor in front of the time capsule that was buried.
That's not
Hashtag
very-
the Illuminati.
Yeah, that's not being very secret.
Or the New World Order, which is apparently global elites that are conspiring to overthrow the existing government. This just feels a little real right now. The most persuasive part of this evidence is that there is a dedication capstone in the airport's south entrance dated March 19th, 1994, which we're coming upon the anniversary. It was sealed beneath a stone as a time capsule containing messages and memorabilia to people of Colorado in 2094. The granite marker depicts the square and compasses and the symbol of the Freemasons and the names of 2 grand lodges and their grand masters. While some people have made the airport, people come just to see this shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they come to the airport just to look at all of
It's
this.
a destination spot in itself.
The capstone also makes mention of a group called the New World Airport Commission. Unlike the Freemasons, this group doesn't actually exist.
I'm sorry, what? So we named a non-existent group?
So some people say that the name is suspiciously close to that of the so-called New World Order, which is, yep. Apparently in this time capsule, it's coins, a baseball from Coors Field, a pair of former Denver Mayor Wellington's web sneakers. It's a nod to a sneaker campaign. Where
I
we
love
went
the
door
idea
to
of a
door.
time capsule, though.
Me too. Black Hawk Casino tokens, other memorabilia. We're obviously going to have to wait a little while for that. 2094 is right around the corner. Something else. There is endless tunnels underneath the airport. Endless, which we now know in Colorado is a thing. Mm-hmm. But there's also bunkers. And people think that this is because of the lizard people.
Yeah. I knew it.
Uh-huh.
I
Okay.
knew the lizard people
So,
were coming.
The miles upon miles of buildings and bunkers under the airport, they think are used by secret societies used to ride out the coming apocalypse. They claim that there's a tunnel that runs all the way from Denver to the North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD, which is located 100 miles away near Colorado Springs, which I think we talked about that in the first episode. And they also think that it's where the extraterrestrial UFO lizard people can come down and
So the lizard people are aliens.
they're, we're not quite sure. I haven't met any that I know of.
I heard about a frog guy too,
There's a bajillion.
just-
but also like alien related.
Yeah, there's
Well, if
that.
it's so big, maybe the airport is hiding UFO landing spots.
That's what people believe.
Now, here's the other thing. The art in the airport. There are these 2 murals. And I do just want to pull them up because when I say creepy, I'm not even kidding. It is like one of them has pictures of little kids with different ethnicities and like Nazis burning things on fire. This is all in one mural
Great.
to signify the end of the world. There's,
Okay.
I know, it's beautiful. There is another mural.
Okay.
Are you looking at them? They're terrifying. Okay, so I do just want to point out too that
Are they holding a sword in the
yes,
middle?
they sure are.
Yeah.
They sure are. And this is all about around the conspiracy that the New World Order's presence is in there. This is what the apocalypse is going to look like, right? So there's... Go ahead.
Who's the guy on the ground?
Oh, that's just supposed to be,
That guy.
Yeah.
the artist, I guess, is just...
The doves are resting on him.
Okay.
And
Looks like the Scream mask.
that doesn't even begin to touch the surface of the fact that there's a stone tablet featuring the Freemasons as well as 2 of the Masonic lodges, like I said, that's there by the time capsule. But the art, what are we looking at?
The girl?
You're scaring me.
She's the yellow.
She's the she's
okay,
the
okay.
Yellow.
Yeah, so if you want to look it up, but the Nazi imagery is super wild because they have it in the pictures. And I believe the artist's name was Leo Tanguma. He said that it's supposed to be a message that's very simple and advocates for peace and global cooperation as a solution to violence and war. I'm sorry, I've looked at those.
They all look terrified.
Terrified.
Yeah. Like,
Terrified.
what is this? This must be the second one with this. There's a white boy with blonde hair holding a squirrel.
Okay, so that might be the peace and harmony with nature, which his other mural that's in there.
But it's like next to somebody that
Is it by
looks
the
like he's
animals?
in a
The
coffin.
green
Okay,
guy that they're
yeah.
holding.
They do not look happy.
They
folks.
do not look happy. I think that looks more like the end of the world.
Yeah, I would not want to get on a plane here.
Okay, now ready
How
for
was
the...
this painted there?
Who approved this?
When was this painted?
Well, he was
Oh,
commissioned
here's
to
the
do
Nazi
this.
thing that you were talking about.
Yes, and look at what the runways look like from above. It looks like a swastika.
That's a dead baby?
Yes, it is.
I don't know how I also
Are those bricks they're lying on?
Guys, they're looking at the pictures of these. But
that the city?
okay, in the one that has the kids, there's a pile of swords, an anvil, on a corpse of a dead gas mask wearing Nazi stormtrooper.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that was the first one I was looking at.
And then there's another one with a like mean Nazi guy at the end of a rainbow.
Is he holding the...
It's just the weirdest. I'm reading my notes
even
back
know.
of what I saw.
I don't like this.
They're not
this
great.
is odd.
There's one where the Nazi figure is stabbing a dove with a sword.
Yeah.
I mean, these murals, you have to look them up for yourself because it doesn't feel like it's real. It doesn't feel like you're... And here's the thing. We walked past these when we were in the
What's
airport.
going on with the penguin?
That's the animal one, the world peace one. It's awful.
But there's a fire.
I know. And he says it's supposed to talk about the what we're doing to the world and
Oh, okay.
animals. And it's not great. It's not great.
Oh, it's
So-
the penguin is extinct.
Yeah. So lots of...
He is clearly crying.
Yeah. Yes.
why are they all dead?
Because Dale.
Because.
That's the...
Look, the poor turtle has netting over him.
So if you do...
Okay.
I mean, I hate to be continuing to hit the Nazi thing hard here, but if you look at the runways, it does resemble a swastika from above.
I'm actually typing that in right now, seeing if I
Okay.
can see an aerial.
And then there's also... Yeah.
Shut up!
Yeah. This is... And it's... Here's the thing. I don't know if that's something that, like, a lot of airports are laid out like that, but when you have these... I mean, in the pictures, they're clearly Nazis. You're seeing... Like...
Yeah.
It is wild. And then this New World Order tie-in. And there's actually a website that talks about the gargoyles are mocking reminders of the baggage transportation issues that happened in the airport. Like, there are reasons why people can explain away some of this art, but I'm sorry, those murals, nothing else.
You can't explain away those.
And how are we walking past those with families? No one's really stopping to look at them because you're in an airport.
And you don't pay
An airport's a
attention.
thing you want to get out of. An airport's not a thing that you're spending time in.
You know, that's funny you say that because I actually love spending time
I do
in
too.
the
I
airport.
really do.
Like, like I'm the person that I will get there 2 hours early because I just like it. I don't know. I find it peaceful. I like looking around. I like people watching. But this also really does not make sense to me because it was built in 1995. Stapleton opened in 1929. Why is there World War II references?
Because here's the other thing. World War II, post-World War II is when air travel became very, very popular. That is what ended the Stapleton Airport, right? Like post World War II, air travel was abundant. You could travel. Also very interesting because air travel and airports used to be controlled by the federal government.
Yeah.
So you could not, if you were an airline, you could not set your prices.
To fly
yeah,
everywhere.
you could not set your prices. So they complained that they couldn't be competitive. Well, now, if you are an airline and you're going to an airport that's being built, and this is going to be, say, the Delta area, Delta was telling them what they wanted their portion of it to look like. They had a say in how this was going to be built. And it was meant to be like we're very inclusive, we're including everybody. But all it did was obviously make the project way more expensive. But it feels like there is, there's jokes about it if you're in the airport. Okay, so there's signs that are put up all over the airport would feature taglines that say, remodeling the lizard people's lair, and we're creating the world's greatest airport, or are we preparing for the end of the world? Lizard people is a wink at the theory that the Illuminati and the New World Order are linked to the super race of reptiles that control the world behind the scenes, or in this case, behind the constructions of Denver International Airport. In 2019, they even put up a new gargoyle, and this gargoyle talks.
Oh.
And one of the phrases that it says is, welcome to the Illuminati headquarters.
Great.
So they're leaning into this.
Oh, okay.
Like, we know that you think this is where the Illuminati is. We know that you think this is where the lizard people live. But what have we learned, if not three curious ladies? It's almost like they feel like they can get away with that shit by
Yes.
throwing it in your face.
Yes.
So you're going to be like, it's obviously not real. Otherwise, they wouldn't be putting this shit everywhere.
is
They'd
it?
be trying to hide it.
It's like when you're overstimulated, right? And you're not picking up on certain things because there's just so much being thrown
Yes.
at you.
Yes.
Oh my God, I cannot even believe you just said that, because that was one of the things that when I was looking into like why things are haunted, like why we see ghosts, things like that.
Yeah.
And it kind of stemmed off of a video that I actually showed in class. It's called inattentional blindness.
Yeah.
So when they're telling you to look at something, you're so focused on what you're looking at, you're not seeing everything around it. And the video is, they tell you to look at the people in white passing a basketball.
Sure.
While a person in a gorilla costume walks straight through the video.
And you don't see it.
You don't. I did not see it.
Yeah.
And I mean, why? You told me to count how many times they pass the basketball. So I'm staring and I'm like watching this basketball go around. And like, that is essentially what you're saying.
Yeah. So there's a documentary show, Jesse Ventura's show. And they believe that it's almost like something's amiss, while also ensuring that the whole conspiracy is so freaking weird that no outsider's going to be able to make heads or tails of it. So it's kind of like, we're going to make this so weird and ridiculous and throw this in your face that you're not even going to be able to begin to get to the bottom of what this actually is, because we've thrown so much shit at you. And listen, I have a very good friend of mine who is a Freemason, and he always jokes. He's like, I'm going to my Illuminati meetings, because he knows that's what everyone calls it.
Yeah.
And I have an uncle who was a Freemason. And you look at these things and, like, remember on TikTok when the one Freemason like kind of broke his silence in 2020 or 2021 and he got kicked out and he started sharing all the shit, and people were trying so hard to like save the TikToks, and the TikToks were getting deleted as they were being saved. And there's something to the fact that there's a lot of Freemason allegory there. Also, why are we painting murals of Nazis? Also, why are there dead children in it?
Why are there gargoyles?
Just all of these insane things. My biggest thing is the tunnels underneath. They're not tunnels like we're thinking the rest of Colorado are their tunnels. It's like a functioning city underneath.
Right.
They are electricity, running water. It is like a tiny city underneath. And now we're not talking little, because I'm saying tiny.
Massive.
33,000
Right.
acres of tunnels. Built out tunnels. We'll never know. And we've been there. I didn't see any of this shit except for the blue horsey.
No, yeah, I was just going to say that. I did
I don't
not
think
see
you could
these
miss it.
murals.
Blue horsey.
I did not see these murals.
We probably did, but you're so...
Yeah, get out.
Get out,
Get out. Well, we'll have to revisit this one day.
I know. That's that was the one when we decided to do Colorado. I was like, yes, we can talk about the airport.
Finally.
22 pages of notes, and I don't even think I looked at them.
I just wonder, like with the
Maybe
fact
another
that
episode.
the government is now like, oh yes, we are aware aliens do exist,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
how,
I know.
does that affect?
And that's
anything?
another
No.
thing here is that this is a UFO hub spot.
Yeah.
Like, this is the hot spot for UFOs to land, do their shit. Like,
Yeah.
underneath the tunnels is where their spaceships are. And
Yeah, see, I could see that.
Yeah.
I was just
It's
gonna
big
say,
enough.
this is totally going off a little bit, but I'm watching a show right now, and it's about
Tell us
aliens.
the show. Just tell us the show.
Roswell.
I love Roswell.
So it says that this airport has a connection to Roswell.
Okay, well,
So that makes sense.
and it's aliens, right? And they
Yeah.
hide, like
Yeah.
the
Hide in
spaceship-
plain sight.
The spaceship crashed, right? And the U.S. military came and literally murdered all these people who were aliens, and they weren't actually hurting anyone, but they just decided to murder them all.
So it was actually a documentary.
And then they captured any of them that were, still alive after the fact, and then locked them away and did experiments on them. But each of them have like different powers. And
Perfect.
so like one of them causes cancer, one of them can erase memory. Like it's all these
Great.
crazy things. And then someone finds out about this facility and they blow it up with everyone inside.
okay.
And it's just like this crazy, like once someone finds out what they've been doing for years and years and years and years, and they're just like, we're going to erase this. This is not what you think it is. And then they have like pieces of the spaceship and they're trying to like figure out what
And this
they
is
can
real
use.
life, yes?
Oh, yes. This
Okay.
is very real. It's not fake at all.
I just think, when you have sensationalized something for so long and then you find out the truth isn't as great as you built it up to,
Yeah.
you continue with the folklore, because what's the fun of the reality at that point?
100%. I think there's been so many stories of people talking about their experiences with being like abducted, and like so many of those stories, other people who have had similar experiences then say like, yes, that's exactly what it felt like, or that's what. And
I only
so it
believe
just-
Kate McKinnon and on SNL. Those are my favorite SNL skits in the history of ever.
Aliens. I think aliens scare me the most out of everything.
Really?
Yeah.
Because they're real?
Because they're real, and like the concept of
We should do an aliens episode because I
Yeah.
can't wrap my head around
No,
what
yeah.
I think they are.
Yeah, fair. Let's pause here
I've never-
and come back and talk about aliens.
The alien thing, and especially growing up where we did, where there were tons
I
of
grew
UFO
up in Pine Bush,
sightings.
which is
Yeah.
Guys,
the #1 UFO sighting capital of the world.
I
That's where
saw
I grew up.
UFOs as a kid. Like, I will swear on my life that I saw UFOs.
I believe you. Now we know you're
more,
not telling.
more
Yeah.
than once.
I mean, but especially when you start studying space and people want to move to Mars and start
Yeah.
blah blah blah. Like, okay, so let's say in this galaxy there are other life forms, have been other life forms. Okay, great.
I
That's
just think
like
it's
where my
us.
interest stops. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
I don't care about them. I care about the people that in the society that I'm with. Like, I've never wanted to explore that. Like, I was never a big Scully and Mulder.
I can't believe that because it's incredible.
know.
Revisit it now.
Nah, I don't know.
Revisit it now. You'll be like, oh, this show's fucking. It's
trying to
more
convince.
Folktown episodes than it is anything else.
Yeah.
Because it's not just aliens. It's like creatures and rougarous and werewolves.
Okay, well,
and-
then that's
yeah,
different.
You would
But,
like
like, I don't know. Signs was awesome. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, M. Night Shyamalan killed that movie. But, then you see the alien. And I'm like,
I don't
Because we don't
know.
have a good enough
Yeah,
imagination to
we
actually
suck.
know
what if they just look exactly like us?
I'm sure they do. I don't like that
Exactly.
they Ken doll all of them.
Or like really tall.
Yeah.
They're always really tall.
I like when they're
Probably
cute
healthier.
and tiny. Can I tell you guys a really good story?
About
I'm
an
sharing
alien?
this with the world. Yep.
Okay, great. Hit me.
This will wrap it up nicely.
Yeah, this is embarrassing, and this is how we're going to wrap this episode.
Okay.
You remember when everybody had imaginary friends in elementary school?
Yeah.
Mine was an alien. He was tiny and greenish gray, and his name was Benderiendo si contendo. And
That is
yes-
amazing.
And yes, I can spell it for you. My whole family knew about it, and he died because my 3rd grade teacher, Mrs. Bartlett, sat on him.
Oh my
When we
gosh.
went to, do you guys remember those books? We got to go see Todd Strasser, the author. I just had a stroke. The author who wrote the like "Help, I'm Trapped in My Teacher's Body" books. You know, like it was like body switch books, very popular in the 90s. We went to go see him at the Thrall Library, and it was an after-school situation. And he was sitting next to me, and dumb Mrs. Bartlett sat on him and killed him.
Wow.
So
Did you cry?
Sure did.
Okay.
My mom, what a gem, took me seriously. She was like, "It's gonna be okay." Well, I told this story to my fiance upon our first year of dating. He then proceeded to make a Facebook page
Shut up.
for Benderiendo si Contendo and friended all of my family on it because they all knew about it, and then eventually friended me, and it had a picture and everything. And that is why I said yes when he proposed. So I believe
That's incredible.
Benderiendo si Contendo.
That just
May he
shows
live
how
on.
creative you were.
May he
and
live on.
are.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so Colorado.
Yeah,
What
that
the
was-
fuck?
That's
Colorado, I came, I saw, I'm confused. I'm
I
gonna go
don't-
lie down for a little while.
Yeah,
We
I
need
don't
to-
think we've even scratched the surface. We're going to have to probably do Colorado's part 9, 12, and 17.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
365.
The airport
7.
alone would be a very fun bonus episode.
Yeah,
if we
definitely.
really dove into it.
Yeah.
Like I said, 22 pages of notes. It is
It's a
cuckoo
lot.
bananas,
It's
yeah.
a lot. But I love this. This was
I
a
love
good
this. This
one.
was such a fun one.
And so-
It really, I think Colorado put into perspective a lot of things for me about the whys.
Yeah.
Why are things haunted? What type
Yeah.
of ghosts do we have here? Why are these things so important, you know?
Yeah.
And
A deep dive.
I love it because it did bring us back in time a little bit.
This felt very history lessony, not in a boring way, but like I think I learned a lot about American
learned how to make a
culture,
map.
and
Yeah.
I learned how to read your.
I am a cartographer now.
You are
put that on the
fantastic.
resume.
I love it.
fantastic.
So till next time.
Till next time, but also we are just going to keep hitting home with this. So if you haven't, head over to our social medias, Folktown Podcast, TikTok.
YouTube too is
YouTube
full
full
videos.
episodes.
Yeah, they
this
will
whole
be
season
there.
will be there. And
Yeah, we put on makeup, guys. You better
we sure
watch
did.
it.
I wore a good bra. And also we have, if you haven't, we threw up those Krampus hoodies, so I'm sure we'll come up with something
I
fun
don't-
for Colorado.
I don't think you understand how comfortable they are. Like
They're
I could
so
live in it.
soft. They're so soft. And so I'm sure we'll have something for Colorado. And I do.
Should it be just like Bigfoot walking to the airport?
and being greeted by the big,
By the-
small penis
Yeah.
horse? As long as the Nazi children are on there. And also, if you're not, subscribe over on Apple Podcasts to become a Folktownie, and you guys get exclusive episodes. You get to hear our episodes a week before everyone else. And we're going to be throwing up a lot of bonus content
Yes. All the fun
for
stuff.
you. Yeah, for you guys.
Sweet.
Yeah.
We can't
All
get
right.
enough of it, so hopefully you can either.
Tell us where to go next.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Tell us where to go next.
Until then.
All right.
Bye.